Hey, it's the O Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, CW, and today we're going to be doing some more wrestle talk. Since the last time I recorded, a lot has happened, which seems to be the par of the course for WWE these past couple of weeks. So, Stephanie McMahon, co-CEO of WWE, resigned. She's gone. She left. And obviously the morale backstage apparently took a hit and the internet melted down. But I just wanted to mention that Stephanie McMahon did file for a leave of absence right before all the allegations came out about her father. There was talk that she was taking a leave because of those accusations, and maybe she just kind of wanted to dip out of the company. I suspected that she was done when she took that leave. I was like, oh, she's just leaving. She just doesn't really want to be bothered with this anymore. She has a family. She's been doing so much. Her daughters are growing up. She wants to go, just watch them grow and be a mom. Her husband was working. Her dad owned the company. She's like, well, why am I still doing this? Let me go hang out. And then all the accusations came out about her dad, and I was like, oh, it's probably that. And then they brought her back in, literally like she was gone for maybe a week, and then they were like, oh, Stephanie McMahon is co-CEO, basically to instill stability in WWE and let stakeholders and investors and all that know. He's like, yeah, we're still par of the course. There's a McMahon up on in the CEO's chair. Now that her father has returned and is apparently trying to sell the company to Saudi Arabia, she doesn't need to be there anymore. So she said, you know what, instead of taking a leave, how about I just dust my hands with this whole business and just say I'm retired. I don't want to do this anymore, which is fine. People are allowed to be tired of doing the things that they used to do. So while people are, having, a time, obviously the wrestling community does like to gab and, put out, heavy sentiment about whatever happens in the community. Just know that this is good for Stephanie. It's good for her mental health, her well-being. It's good for her family. As of this recording, as of me speaking, Triple H is still, quote unquote, in charge of creative over at WWE. So, they still have jobs. And let's just think through the idea. Let's say Vince sells to Saudi Arabia. It won't be good for the company. And honestly, I think if he were to do that, it's just him saying, the company dies with me, basically. And given his sort of power play to get back in charge over there, I wouldn't be surprised if he burned the company down just to spite everyone. But let's just say that he sells to Saudi Arabia, whatever. Triple H leaves. I would suspect there would be a pretty big exodus out of the company at that point. Just remember what happened with AEW. AEW cropped up because a bunch of professional wrestlers found a backer and they said, let's start our own thing. And 2 years later, it's, a successful, viable wrestling product. I don't know what the future holds for WWE. It's had a great run. It's still doing well. Hopefully they take care of it. But should, key players leave, there's always an opportunity for them to do something new, to go someplace else and fortify that structure. It's all good. And I applaud Stephanie for, taking that leap and saying, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Again, don't do the things you don't want to do. Don't feel trapped in your current situation. Do something else or do nothing. Well, don't do nothing, but do something else. And I think that's what Stephanie's doing. So good on you, Steph McMahon. And always, she's rich. She'll be okay. Everyone in WWE will be okay. At worst, Vince takes over creative and then we get more bookings of like Emma and Madcap Moss getting squashed, or Baron Corbin doing anything with JBL. It'll just go back to that, which is, what's happening now anyway. So it's okay. It's wrestling. It's okay. I don't know if I'm reassuring you or myself. What else is happening in wrestling? Well, that's kind of like the big thing. I feel like had to address the fact that Stephanie bowed out. But I didn't have much else to kind of go over. I said it was going to be more wrestle talk, but it's kind of really the only thing banging about. I guess we can cover Raw for a little bit. We have a couple minutes, right? We have 4 minutes. Raw was good. I enjoyed it. Bobby Lashley has returned. He was wearing his black and gold getup, and I kept like nudging my wife, going, "Oh, he's wearing Hurt Business gear. He's wearing Hurt Business gear." And then I remembered that she doesn't watch wrestling, so she's like, "What's the Hurt Business? What is Hurt Business, and why does he wear their gear?" And I was like, "Oh, never mind." I didn't want to have to sit there and explain. During the pandemic, he was in a group, and then he had the title, and they had the titles, and then it doesn't matter how long we've been together, nor how much she proclaims to love me. There is a look she gives me when I get into nerdy conversations, where she's a little glossed over. She's like, She'll listen, and she won't, be crappy about it, but I don't want to torture her, so I kind of was just like, ugh. So the Hurt Business is hopefully coming back. Cedric and Shelton Benjamin had a spot in the tag team Turmoil. They didn't do well, but they did have some high spots. I don't know what the Hurt Business could bring to the table right now, other than more fodder for the Bloodline, but it's exciting to have them back. I think they need a shot with a crowd. They did their best work, obviously, when there was in like the what did they call it, the Thunderdome, the whatever dome, with all the TVs with silent silence or pumped in noise. So having actual people there to react to the Hurt Business, for them to get an accurate read on how their gimmick is going, I'm hopeful that they get to do that. Also, when MVP showed up on TV and they actually had a segment where he spoke to Bobby Lashley. I thought they were going to cut away when he said, "We have business to discuss," but they stayed with it. It was a great segment, because honestly, I really thought they were going to do the long form tease, but they were like, no, let's give them something. So it was nice to see that they squashed some beef, and hopefully that faction comes back together and they have a good run with the Bloodline or Judgment Day or something. Miss Bliss has been officially pulled into the Uncle Howdy business. I mean, it was inevitable. She's been getting that Bray Wyatt symbol that's been torturing her or mentally breaking her every week. So it was only a matter of time before Howdy showed up. What up, Howdy? At this point, we need some sort of closure on who this character is. The suspension of disbelief of this person coming out, just kind of standing on the ring, them cutting to commercial, and then coming back and it's business as usual. There's a whole thing that happens where Miss Bliss had to get off of her table. She had to go back to the back. Uncle Howdy had to leave. They had to turn the lights back on. Like, there's this whole production that has to go on, and I can't fathom the announcers not saying, well, this is what happened after things cut out. It's very, very strange. Anyway, hit the bell, get notified for new videos coming up. Subscribe to the podcast on any and all podcasting platforms. I appreciate the fact that you guys have listened this long to this 10-minute wrestling podcast. I'll keep doing it as long as I possibly can if you want to listen. Thank you once again for listening to the O Wrestling Podcast. Time to kick off my day. Just remember,
I'm your friend, but if I ever see you in the ring, I can beat you. Don't you know? Yeah, yeah, yeah.